question also, so that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So that's great, Bhavesh. Thank you very much. So Naga asked a very important question that, hey, like couple of years back, we had just maybe cracking the coding interview, and people know exactly what they are going to go over, and they used to, after finishing that book, or even like 40% or 50% of the book, they used to feel something like that, hey, I know things, and I can go ahead with, I'm prepared, kind of that kind of confidence used to be there. But now, since there are so many different kind of materials, so many YouTube channels, and like so many coding platform, uh, you never feel that you are prepared, plus you don't feel confident even though you are working hard after doing all this, finishing your office. This is what you do every day. So like how like what do you think about it, basically? That was the question, Naga, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I think everybody has their own strategies of dealing with it because we have to deal with it. But that's always a struggle, right? To find the balance. At least for me, that has always been a struggle. Like how to
Right.
find that balance, and when do I feel like, okay, yeah, now I'm good. And
Right.
again, like, yeah, given the kind of uh, state we are in, the world is in, it's not like you can attend, like, okay, I can attend like 10 interviews and then, okay, I'll feel like, oh no, I'm not ready, so I'll try again. There are like not many opportunities. Like you if you want to change, you get like very few opportunities, right?
I
Yeah,
see.
I don't think I'm trying to scare anybody here, but I'm just telling like what, oh,
No,
how it, yeah.
actually, see, all these questions are very, very useful, very important. I can answer, but I think this question, like, all these set of questions, anybody, like, uh, you can come ahead and you can just, jump in, provide your insight, because everybody will get benefits out of it. So
That's true.
go ahead if anyone wants to speak on
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Okay, I will wait for someone, and if nobody starts, then I will give my take, or Bhavesh can also talk about it.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. I want to say something. So,
Yeah.
first thing is that yes, it's hard to manage like your job and these programming competitions and programming and coding questions. But what I have realized is that after a while, you might start enjoying them, and then you might not feel them like they are something that you are doing additional, but it maybe after some time it might feel like that this is something fun and you want to do it. So that is one thing. And the other thing which I feel is that what you mentioned, that people have been affected and there are not many situations to do job interviews and all. Yes, that is very unfortunate. We are in right now not very good times, but still I feel that like we as in prof- we in this profession are luckier than other people. I think that like other kind of professions, some kind of other professions might have struggled more than us. So in that way, like we should not feel discouraged and we should stay motivated. Yeah, that's it.
Actually, a very nice answer. Someone else, I'm just, I will try to put the questions here so you can go ahead and take a look later. So in the meantime, if somebody wants to jump, feel free. Okay.
Yeah, hi, Raghav this side. I would like to add here. I think I would say that this situation is there for everyone. Naga, I am totally agree with you. Even I could not able to find a balance between daily work life. Even I am into the total different time zone. I'm in Canada right now, so all the late sessions happen in the mid of the afternoon. So it is very difficult to attend from the office time. So what the best I have done, I mark down the important topics and I go back once I reach home. Then I watch those videos which I feel that is important for me. Say for example, few topics which I don't know much, still I'm trying to understand, like DP or dynamic programming. Those topics I usually skip if I'm not able to understand quickly. So that is the only tip I follow. After going home, I watch the recorded sessions.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of prioritized what you think you want to
Yes,
focus on. Yeah.
because my level, I would say at right now, it is at very beginner level.
Mhm.
Few topics as DP and other difficult algorithms I could not able to understand properly until unless if I go myself into basics of those first.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
skip those topics usually.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. When you start, I mean, that is a good idea. Like, yeah, like make sure that if you know something, you know it reasonably well, so that, like, for example, linked list or trees, you feel confident, for example. Then, yeah, put some extra effort because you know that you have the foundation to like, make most of the problems work if asked in the interview. Uh, for the things which you feel you are lacking on that, yes, you will need expect more time, like, invest more time on it. And so the question was like, I'm feeling overwhelmed, right, with all the resources and finding a balance. Uh, so someone else proposed earlier, I liked that idea, that make it a habit. Like, I know that if you are currently interviewing, for example, you have an interview in the next 15 days. So the strategy, this is, my point of view. So I'm pretty sure you don't have to totally agree to that, but I will offer my insight.
Mhm.
If I have 15 days, then I try to find, okay, how can I use my time best. I would not go through like everything, like, all the YouTube channels which I am interested to follow. I may not actually do a lot of stuff which I normally do day to day. I will just set up a boundary. Hey, I need to make sure I do 10 good questions on graph, 10 on DP, like, common questions. So I will have, like, in next 10 days, I will just finish those properly. Like, what will that give me? Like, when you go there and you have this, like, mentally, that I have covered every area, then you have one extra, like, level of satisfaction that, hey, if anything comes up, I can at least try. If you don't do that, you don't have a boundary, like, okay, I will only do that, you will always feel that I'm missing something. And that is not the best feeling, especially when you go for interview, because you, doesn't matter like which topic comes. So like, I say this quite often that, okay, people think binary search is very easy. uh, but I'm telling you, like, there are a lot of binary search problems which you can, like, you cannot do, if even if you feel you are very confident with that. I mean, that is the reason why, like, go to any platform, they will have different level of problems, like, easy, medium, hard. And then if you just think, okay, I cannot do all the problems, doesn't matter, like, I want to just complete binary search, then you will continue to do, like, defer that. You will not touch anything else. So just, like, be with peace. Okay, I understand it. I know the strategy. I have done couple of problems, move on. However, if you have enough time, like, here we are, like, doing this session currently. I haven't been searching for a job, like, since I have joined this platform or anything. And I'm also very, very busy with my day-to-day work. So that's why nowadays, unfortunately, I'm not that, like, active here. But the reason I try to be in touch is that thing, like, okay, that I don't totally, like, miss this thing. So I know if I have to go for an interview eventually, all these things will not be foreign to me. So I am still in touch. I don't have the luxury as people who are in colleges who have all the time to do that. So if you try to find that kind of time, unfortunately, if you are in a job and especially your job is also intense, then it is not actually a practically feasible idea. You also need to take a break. You need to feel some, you need to recharge yourself.
Yeah.
So does that answer your
Yeah,
question
yeah.
a little bit?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely, Roger. That's a very good insight of like uh, how to not feel too overwhelmed, right? At least like get the grip of it, do the basic problems if you have like immediate interview coming up or something, and be ready as much as
Yeah.
you can, and then expand on that, right?
Yes, exactly. So start with yeah, that's a very good thing. Have a very 100 questions, something like that. Find
Yeah,
a best resource, and just after that, yeah, you have covered your bases.
right.
Then yeah, get better.
Get it.
So
Yeah, yeah.
what was
That's
that? Yeah, someone else asked something for beginner. Like, okay, go
Yeah,
ahead. So
and
somebody had. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, so I would like to add that question that came on chat. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so a beginner who doesn't understand, right, some of the topic and no CS background. So probably I can answer because I can relate to that. So
Sure.
I'm not a computer science background student, and I haven't studied computer science, in college. So initially, I was struggling a lot when I was not joined with us this skill. I was I tried to do lead code daily contest, right? That happens Saturday 6:30, and I was struggling so much. Sometimes I take the whole 1.5 hour just to solve the beginner problem. You know,
Mhm.
not even reach to the first two problems, just first problem sometimes. So what I did is that I was taking different approach where I go to lead code, other side, code force, another side, and try to understand the problem and answer the question and go to the discussion and try to learn. And at one point, especially with the graphs, where I did
Mhm.
not study it, theory. I was finding it very difficult, to relate. I can understand after reading through explanation. So what I did is that I basically went through the computer science course that normally data structure algorithm course that normally is taught in university, and I went through that, religiously for next 6 months. There is very good one course that I always recommend if somebody asks, that is algorithms 1 and algorithm 2 on Coursera. And that really helped me. Basically, that helped me to understand most of the theory part of it. Then after that, I was not afraid to, afraid about any topic. And then, and that is not enough, but basically, at least it will give you the confidence. And then then I started looking at the question in context of that, saying that, oh, does it fit in one of the algorithms that I learn, or can I change my algorithms, what I know, to answer this question. There are a lot of other questions that is out of that book. Definitely nowadays people are very innovative with that question and answer, but basically you have a good foundation, and on top of that then you can build. And I think that would help really anyone who is beginners.
That's right. Yeah, that's a very uh, good plan actually. If you are from a non-CS background, and you have to understand where you stand, right? I mean, you are not competing against anyone else. Let's look at it. You are just competing against your version from yesterday. If you incrementally build upon that, that is the best strategy you can have. Never compete with others, but with enough effort. And luckily now we are living in a time where, like, look at the first problem. There are so many resources. Select very few, like, just do basic problems as we just talked about. You will start feeling confident. Like a lot of people now, I think they are pretty confident with the easy problem, right? Most of the easy problems. But yeah, at one point of time, like, that used to be the aha moment when you solve one CS, like, lead code easy problem. You feel, hey, that's great. It happened to me too, because uh, earlier, like, there were not all those online judges, or at least I was not familiar. It was there, like, code forces and all these top coder, but yeah, I had never used those. And so there were a lot of bugs even in a program which I used to think I have written well. When you start to write actually in an online judge, you will feel like what you missed. And with all these things today, now everything is possible to do in just a browser. Like, it's great actually. So I think just persistence, continuous effort with some deadlines. Yeah, set up something that, hey, in next 2 months I will just do this, and then you gauge your progress against your previous version, not against anyone else. That will definitely help.
Mm. I
So
have another question. Let me know when I can ask.
yeah, sure. Let me look at like what is on the chat which we haven't answered yet. So Abhishek said that he did the similar strategy where he did couple of problems from EPI book, and he felt okay. I don't know how to proceed and get stuck. Oh, okay.
Okay.
So he has a question also. Okay, okay. It's a very good question. So should we take Abhishek's question, and then maybe we'll take your question. Then we'll again come to the group chat.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? So yeah, he has a very good like question, like, and it happens with a lot of people. Like, you solved some problems, right? You feel that you have understood the topic, and when you try to do the same problem, you feel, come on, I can't solve it. I know that I only solved it myself. So I have an answer, but anyone else wants to share their opinions?
Yeah. So one quick thing, then Roger, probably you can answer. What I found useful is basically whenever suppose when I solve the problem, and if I took any help, right? Either I watch YouTube video. I
Yeah.
mean, after struggling some time, basically, first thing is that any problem comes, I'll try to see whatever I have learned so far, and
Mhm.
if any of this technique can apply. Uh,
Right.
if I can't do that, and then basically I will try to at least solve it, you know, not efficient way, because most of the problem should be solved non efficient way. It won't work. It code will not accept it, but
Right.
at least it will pass few initial test case, and then I will take help. And then after I take the help, basically the main question that I would try to answer is that why I could not get that idea. Basically, how I can move from my current knowledge to that answer. What was lacking, and what can what kind of thought can trigger me to think in that direction.
Right.
So that will then help me to retain one more idea to think in that direction when any new problem comes in future.
Right. That's
Untuning
very,
problem. Yeah.
that's a very good answer.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah. Roger, one
Also, like,
strategy. Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So one strategy, I have that problem as well. Like I've spent like 2 hours on this problem a few days back, and I thought like I got it completely. and then when I try again, oh man, it's still, it's like if I get stuck, I have that problem. So one strategy I'm trying to get to, I don't know if this will work, but I'm trying that. So I saw, I'm trying to templatize this kind of problems. Like if you, I think there's one course in Educative IO or also, and like, and there are like some strategies people have been putting in lead code as well. Like
Mhm.
templatize this. I say, okay, this is like a sliding window kind of problem. This is like a recursive problem. This is like a dynamic programming problem. If I see these words, I should start in this approach. So I'm trying
Mhm.
to templatize like that. I don't know if that is like memorizing the problem, but I'm at least trying to memorize the strategies. Like, oh, uh, I see these words. Oh, this is definitely a backtracking kind of problem. I see this kind of words. This is this, because the challenge is like in interview, I have like half an hour or 45 minutes. I go in one direction, and if the direction doesn't work, I cannot go back and change the direction and then rewrite that problem. So I'm 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 trying to see like if I could templatize those things and at least get the template right. So when I start a problem, I don't know if that will work, but I'm trying that path now.
Yeah, actually, having a pattern, yeah, definitely helps a lot.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
mean, yeah, you recognize something and then so now out of, suppose you have solved 10 problems
Mhm.
on a certain, using a certain pattern.
Mhm.
So basically you are repeating things, right?
Yep. Yep.
So that is how our mind works. When we repeat similar stuff, it sticks, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that is why, like, you know a general way to solve the problem, and then similar problem comes, at least your mind will like, let you know that, hey, like, is it this? Then
Mhm.
you will start digging a little bit, and then you will use the basic like, idea of the pattern, whether it is in that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
realm or not. If
Yeah.
yes, then yes, you have found already a workable way to solve that. May not be the best way, but
Yep.
yes, you have found a way. So that is actually very, very useful thing.
Yep. Yep.
Also, like, think about it, like, since, like, how, how many things we remember in our life. If you think about it, like, only major things we remember, right? We don't remember all these like, if you are 30 years old or something, you don't remember everything or every day. So normally we remember things which are very like, what do you say, which were very exceptional for you, like, certain things, like you struggled a lot, you got something, right? Or you were so excited, and like, that moment you can totally capture it. Even the seconds you can capture about that. So that is why, like, when like somebody, I think Bhavesh said, like, struggle. I mean, if you go to a problem, you solve it without struggling, then when you actually, you are done with that problem, you don't learn a lot of things. So actually struggling with the problem is a very good thing. You know so many ways, like, why it didn't work. So you know in and out about that problem, because then when it will finally be done, you will actually, it will retain in your mind for a longer time. I mean, that happens with me. I'm just talking from my perspective here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think when you struggle doing a problem, you also find out like a lot of ways that the problem wouldn't work, right? So that helps in
right.
some other problem as well.
Exactly. Another problem, it will help you. So actually, if you have two options and that happens, it's good only.
Yeah.
Third one is actually repeat it. Like, repeat after certain days. That is another advice you will see a lot of places, that, okay, you are doing some problems, like, do the same problem after 7 days. Like, suppose you are doing 15 problems in a week, and you felt that 5 problems were very good, and you felt that it was not that easy for you to come up with a solution for them. Actually have a day maybe Saturday, Sunday, depends on which day you have more time. Go through those problems, exact same problems. So when you will do that for a couple of times, next time, don't go in next week. Next time, go in third week, try to do that problem. After some time, when you repeat, then you will not need to go to revising the same problems, revise something else. It's not because you are just memorizing it. Actually you are trying to memorizing that pattern, let's say, like your mind will start to retain that for a longer time. I mean, that is strategy also a lot of people do. So try that.
One more thing which like I have I have done and helped me is that when solving any good questions, like there are a lot of questions, but if you find any good question and while solving them,
Yeah.
if I encounter something, if I learn something, then I
Mhm.
take note about it,
Oh yeah.
and then it's really helpful because once you're writing, first you write it properly, and
Right.
at that time you learn a lot of things, and also in future if you're solving that question and if you are not able to solve it, then you have your notes to look back that what did you learn. And so like what I have started feeling is like doing lot of questions would be good, but it's also like another strategy which is good strategies, doing few questions but understanding them very deeply, very properly, taking notes out of them, what did you learn out of them, and
Yes.
then slowly you see that you start to solve other questions also easy.
Yeah, that is a good advice. Yes, definitely.
I agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And also try to present, now, people who have presented on this platform, they will definitely, at least they would agree that when you think that you know something, you actually don't know that yet. And it is a very different feeling. People who haven't done that, they would not understand it. So you know that you have solved some problem, you know it at this point of time, would try to present it to someone, in some forum. First of all, you yourself will feel that actually you don't know a lot of things when you start to talk about, in detail. And then people will come up with some questions which you didn't think about. So that will expand your thinking process and understanding about that same thing. So you would be able to retain more next time when you actually try to do the similar problem. So that is another advice I can offer on that.
That's true. Actually, when people are presenting, I see that there's a lot of good ideas that come in the group, and
Yeah.
people discuss different things about the same problem, right? So I presented something recently, but
Yeah,
when I was presenting, I felt like, okay, this is the best solution. I know this one, but
exactly.
while discussing in the group, there are a lot of different ideas, a lot of different optimizations,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and that helps a lot actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you remember well also after those kind of discussions.
Yes, yes, exactly. So what was the next question? I think somebody was planning to ask something. Let's go to that question now.
I have one.
Yeah, that was okay. Go ahead. Is yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
That is related to system design. I attended a couple of system design sessions which happened in the past. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I found that I generally don't work in server side in my day-to-day job. I usually
Mm-hmm.
work on the front end or in the mobile side area.
Yeah.
So I never get a chance to have a hands-on on different kind of databases. So
Mm-hmm.
I usually struggle a lot whenever any discussion comes around system design area specific to NoSQL, Cassandra, what to choose, MapReduce, and other stuff. So is there any tip would you like to give how to enhance that knowledge, or just a high level knowledge about cap theorem and understand if high availability have been asked, pick up this particular framework, or usually in the interview people go in depth also. What is your suggestions? Anybody can help me out?
Yes, I can answer, but does anyone else want to offer the insight? Please go ahead.
So I think that's kind of common for people who are working on backend also, because sometimes like the company you're working on, the product you're working on, they choose like one solution, and you may not get a chance to try out other solutions. So the idea is like the way I mean, like we have the system I'm working in. We're still strong RDBMS, and I think that's the case with most of the systems which are moving to the latest technologies. So the way I go about is like uh, we have done a POC at work, and I'm also trying to do some POCs, uh, some proof of concepts on myself to understand the systems. And then when I'm doing those things, I myself get a lot of questions on like, okay, why is this working like this, different from what I already know? And then start reading up on the blogs and different resources. That helped me a bit. And uh, and again, the discussions that are happening in this group, uh, either in the system design discussions, or like we recently started book club, these are helping a lot actually, because where people are adding their own experiences and learning from each other.
Yeah, and
That is my approach of what I'm trying.
yeah, also I can also add a little bit to it. What I have experienced, like in the interview a couple of years back, and I see that uh, it's valid. I mean, the question what you ask, uh, I believe that it is totally related to number of years of experience you have in the industry. Uh, um, it's like I am a backend engineer. I don't work on front end side, but I should have a fairly good understanding of uh, what are the front end areas my project is touching, and should have a high level understanding of that area as well. I mean, I just cannot say that I don't know React or HTML, or similar thing applies for SQL, NoSQL as well. I was in a kind of same situation a couple of years back where I worked only on RDBMS database and not much exposed to NoSQL and all. Or the experience what I had in my interview is about the security side. Like I was using ADFS security in my project, which I talked about, but interviewer wanted me to know more about OpenID, Okta, and all those kind of security layers. So what I felt is that uh, having a certain number of with like being in the industry for some time, we cannot answer that I don't know that. I mean, you have to have a fair understanding of other technologies at the high level, and the pros and cons of the other technologies. Uh, and then you should be able to answer, like, if you say that we are using this database, then you should really have a good understanding of why you are using it. Why did you choose that technology? uh, what kind of security you went with. If you cannot compare, I think that goes kind of a negative on the in the system design interview. If you have, like, I would say 5 to 6 years of experience and plus, you are, I think, expected to know at least at the high level, compare things. You may not know everything, because we know that every 3 months we are getting a new technology in the market, right? And but at the higher level, you should be able to distinguish between SQL, NoSQL. Uh, that's what my experience has been.
Yeah, that's some good advice. And I think the question was that, yeah, you don't have experience with back-end topics, right? And yeah, in system design interview, especially if you are going for a senior role, they would expect you to know at least, even if you are going for a senior UI, I don't know exactly like if that happens in even the like non FANG companies, if that happens. But yeah, knowing about all these different things, like like CDN, VPN, like how things work, like understanding a little bit about database, like all these things up to a certain level helps. But if you are going for like if you have a like UI like experience a lot, and if you like they are considering it for a back-end role, then suppose even if you are somehow selected, it's not good for you. Or like how would you be able to perform day-to-day job there? So having a like like very clear picture that okay, if this role is for a UI senior engineer, and you know enough information, and you be very like clear about it, like you can just talk about it a little bit. Hey, I know how NoSQL versus SQL selection will work. I know a little bit about security, but since I haven't worked on it like that in my primary job, it will take me some time to get up to the speed. If I am the interviewer, I would be reasonable with that. However, if I'm looking for someone who has a lot of experience with the backend system, then actually I would have not, I would have said like, no, that please recommend this person for a different role. Also, like guys, I have seen like a lot of people in different like, videos I have seen. They think like interviewers are like a Superman or something. Let me tell you, among people who are here, I guarantee that 50% of you are interviewing candidates, right? And you ask the same question. You ask the same question, that what will interviewer like may ask. Interviewer also is a reasonable person. I have seen very few like examples where if they are not experienced, then it's a very tough like interview, because when someone doesn't know what to ask, and that happens a lot, so you are actually you you have a bad luck, unfortunately. But good interviewers, they will try to extract the best info out of you. They will try to extract the best like okay, where do you fit? If you don't fit for a role, it's good actually that you don't get selected for it, because after a couple of months you will feel frustrated, you can't contribute, and you will be judged like with other people who are doing the similar role. So it's good that actually you are not going there. However, if you are trying to learn that and get better at it, and you just want to learn from the like up from the like let's say 30,000 foot, then there are a lot of good sessions we are having here. Like check out our system design sessions. They are not very like in depth. So from a like from a backend point of perspective, it's still like on surface level. If I say, if I have done designed data intensive application, I have read that, and if I say, hey, I know everything, that is just like that's a joke basically. But it will give you a lot of actually ideas where you can further go in depth if you are interested. Also, actually, I wanted to cover that anyway. Like yesterday, for example, like there was like a mock interview, I think, and we have that for like a couple of last weeks we are having. Go take a look. Like you will always learn like after the session, like how to get better at like interviewing for system design. You have to show your strength. You have just 45 minutes. Think about it, like nobody can design a system in 45 minutes. Then it's on you, like, how can you demonstrate your best, like, in those 45 minutes. Try to, if suppose I was not good at backend, I would try to get better at, say, maybe REST design. So I will try to invest more time on maybe API part of it. Yeah. And I can openly say, hey, I haven't done much work on the back end, so I know the basics. But then if the interviewer is good, then he will actually judge you on that, like, because API design is also not very easy. So we can talk about it. If you are doing a front end, like a heavy role, then you can talk about all those things, like how it works in web, like, all those like cool, like, JavaScript based technologies, uh, the, I don't know, like DOM level information. I don't know, but in that case, I think your interviewer may also be, like, good at those, most likely. So yeah, if you want to get better, you will have to study. I mean, and then try to play with it also a little bit. A little bit hands-on will help. Anyone else can chime in now.
Okay, I think that the question was asked, if we can provide, give him any resources that he can learn, right, and get, he been working the front end, and sound like he want to transition to the back end, not, about he's a front end developer and he applied for the back end job. He just asking for, if we can provide him resources or some advices.
Yeah, I have a question. This is my name is Rishabh. This is my second session with the group. Really,
One moment.
really. Okay.
Yeah, 1 moment. I think, are you trying to answer the question like that Leon was asking, or?
No. Oh, okay. So yeah.
Let's.
Leon.
I think we should
Okay.
try to answer that question.
Oh, okay.
About the resources, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
to cut you off, but yeah.
So Leon's question was, like, if you are in a UI role and you want to go into the backend role, I think that is the question, right?
No, that's not my question. That I think that's a previous whoever asking. He asked
Leon is suggesting to provide the resources to me. I asked the question that.
Yeah, so I can suggest one resource. There are like multiple resources actually. Like online, you go, there are multiple resources. But I believe most of you guys know there's one famous book, which is like the Designing Data Intensive Applications, right? It talks a lot about backend stuff. And like Roger was mentioning, you read it once, you feel like you know everything, but not enough. That book has that effect on many people. We are having a book club reading about that, and like the system design uh, channel that we have also is talking about that. For me, those two things were helpful. So those are the resources I would recommend.
There's also one more resource that is open source, and it's actually compiled by a contributor. I'm pointing a link to that. It is having articles from all the organizations, like it is having articles from Walmart, articles from Discord, articles from all huge companies like Coursera, Udacity, where they are really discussing their future on system design and how they have tackled problems in their previous versions, and what are they doing. So this link, which I just posted right now, it has all the links to articles from organization that they're talking about how they're solving their system design problems. It really talks a lot about how do they scale their databases for reads, how they are really making use of modern technologies like not really modern, but how they're making use of stream processing and other other modern technologies to solve their problems and how they're upgrading their system day by day.
Yeah, I checked that link. Looks good. So yeah, I think there are a lot of resources, guys, and if you have to do one thing, you don't have enough time. Designing data intensive application is the best. I mean, from you talk to a lot of people, and we are already doing couple of sessions. So definitely go through that session. uh, yes, I mean that will give you so much confidence already, and then it has also like a lot of references if you want to learn a little bit more about that. So after the end of the chapter you can go through those things, and then you will reach to the level where you are going to read research papers. But guys, if you are preparing for interviews, then stop yourself. If you haven't done that already, first prepare for your interviews. But yes, if you are interested to learn more, that is a totally different thing, then go check that out. I'm just saying, like, you make best use of your time. If you have just 1 month, then don't go too much in depth. Other than that, I think there is some educative course also which people talk a lot about,
Yeah,
something
there's
talking.
grokking system design interview course. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a good refresher for you before you go for your interviews. That will tell you the kind of pattern which you should follow. So it's a good one.
Okay. So yeah, my question is, I would like to place a question if anybody
Yeah,
else is not placing right
go ahead. Then we will
now.
take the next from chat.
Okay. So my question is based on the fact that when I see a question, let's say I've already worked on that question before, and I actually know the pattern that it is trying to exploit. But when I'm thinking of how to use that pattern and try to describe it to interviewer, I sometimes get stuck. So when I get stuck, I start like I really get a bit panicked. And when I get panicked, everything goes haywire. Everything goes down the road for me. So
Yeah,
what do you guys do? Like what do you guys do when you get stuck and when you know the pattern, you have you have practiced that question before, and you really don't want to remember the code you wrote and then represent that same code, but rather
yeah,
I really want to explain the code to interviewer. I want to explain my concept, and when I'm explaining my concept, I get stuck, and so that is when my code or my idea goes wrong.
sure. So one thing which which can help you, and maybe you have to actually think about it after the session also, because everybody has their strength, and and that is why like all these I follow tennis a lot. That's why my name is Roger here. That you have to figure out what is your strength, and on that strength you have to build your strategies. That's why everybody has their own strategy. Now, like, what I try to do, I try to modularize my thinking. Like, modularize that. Hey, okay, if I'm, for example, thinking about, let's call topological sort. I know there are two different ways, right?
Yeah.
The big picture, I know, hey, I will get in degree out degree, and then I will in queue things, and then I will start to process things, and then I will see if there is any cycle or not, and then I will be able to do it.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to explain it to an interviewer, I will first talk about all these steps, right? Maybe I will also write small methods where I will just say, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then I will draw the overall picture, the flow, quickly, of course, on a drawing board. And that helps me because I'm a visual thinker. When I
Hmm.
try to draw, then it retains. Otherwise, my mind doesn't work. Otherwise, I feel very tough to
Hmm.
do anything without
Hmm.
drawing.
Hmm.
So I draw, I write these pseudo things. And at this point of time, you will recognize that interviewer is happy. You are already 60% up, done with your interview, at least for that particular question. Because you guys have agreed to a way, he is already familiar with what you are going to do with your small, modules, or let's say call functions. Then when you are working on one particular function, you have a very small problem to solve, a smaller problem basically. So most likely you would be able to do that in front of him. However, if for some complexity it does not happen, how you can get over this is that try to present more, because when you try to present more, you are practicing that aspect also, which you will do anyway while interviewing. So that should help.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question? I don't know.
So
Yeah.
does anyone has an answer?
Rishabh, I think I completely agree with your whatever you are saying. I also get into that sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
when I get
if I found any solution for it, but I kind of
so
agree
what,
with
so,
Roger.
so,
Maybe visualize. I would try that. I don't know if
so
anybody has.
one thing
Yeah.
one thing I'm really thinking when I get stuck is I'm thinking of lay down all the options in front of the interviewer and expect that interviewer will guide us further. Sometimes like when I get stuck, let's say I'm coding let's say I'm working on a DFS problem. I know I have to go down the and it's a tree problem. I know I have to go down the stack, but all of a sudden, okay, if I go down, let's say I want to sum up all the values in a binary tree. So that means a normal way of doing it. One way of doing it is I could use a DFS traversal, right? So I could go all the way down the tree, but once I reach down the tree, when I'm explaining to the interviewer, now I start to ask myself, how do I sum up the values? And then really I know that it should happen within the same recursive function, but I during the interview I get so panicked, so that I forget that it should be happening within the function, and then I cannot explain my further thought process, because I know I think that I failed explaining the problem to the interviewer. I've failed explaining my idea, and I start to think that he's thinking negative about me. So that is that happens with me a lot of time when I'm facing some kind of a tree problem or some kind of a recursive problem.
Yeah,
And so
I was in that position.
So that time what I do is I try to lay down all the options in front of the interviewer and expect that he can guide me further. But sometimes it happens that the interviewer doesn't want to respond. And what do you do in that case? He doesn't want to respond, and then you feel like you failed. You have not done right. You have not done correct. You did not get the solution, and you sort of get demotivated at that point of time in the interview.
So actually, Risa, that I think I know a couple of people are raising hands, so we'll talk about, like, Martin will get his turn for sure.
Yes.
So on that, you raised a very good point. Actually, sometimes interviewers, they want to see you struggle actually. So I would advise, when that happens, don't give up. That is a different thing. Like, when they have to look at different aspect of your interview, there is one also, like, how do you deal with the situation when you have no idea what to do. A lot of people, what they do, they just totally give up and they are looking for just help. You can hope that, like, don't expect, but you can hope that maybe interviewer gives you a hint and you can take it. Otherwise, try to follow the basics, right? I mean, say, hey, I think I'm struggling, I know it should work, and then try to, like, go through like, your tree diagram, for example, try to draw something, okay, how the values will be returned, do something about it. And then at least that will give the interviewer that you are not totally stuck, you are still making progress. And when you will make progress, then he may offer hint also. But if you totally just give up, then it's not a good indication for them. And also you will not be able to take it that easily. So because mind stops to work and it starts to focus in a different way, because now you are not focusing on yourself, you are focusing on your interviewer. Never do that.
So that sometimes I try to focus on the result, and that is what,
One suggestion I could make is think out loud, right? When you think out loud, because sometimes when you are on the other side of the interview, if you are interviewing somebody, if you don't understand what the other guy is thinking about, you'll not be able to make a suggestion, right? So maybe the interviewer is in that position. He doesn't understand what you are trying, so he cannot make a suggestion. Probably if you think out loud, at least he knows like, okay, this is the question where you are stuck on, so he can give a hint. The interviewer may be in a position like he doesn't want to give you a solution, so he can give you a good chance to finish the question. So we might also have to help the interviewer to answer where you are stuck, right? So maybe thinking out loud helps. Like, okay, I know I want to do this, but I don't know how to sum up. I think I missed somewhere. Then he might offer a quick suggestion. They don't want to give a complete solution. They are okay to give a quick suggestion, right? We might have to help the interviewer sometimes on what to help on.
Yeah, so
Okay.
good point. So Martin, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I just have a question, but I can wait until we finish, unless we're done with this question.
I think we are kind of done, right? Right, Rishabh? I think you have something to think about, and you can figure out your best strategy, but you know what to do, right? What to focus
Yeah,
on.
I got it. Maybe let the interviewer know that like what I did not read the name, like the last suggestion, and your first suggestion, like drawing, or yeah, even I'm a visual person. I like to draw and
Yeah.
think of stuff visually. That really helps. Like draw the stack and show that I'm putting the nodes one by one, and then I'm popping them out. And I don't know the person who gave the last suggestion, but that was really helpful. Like
Yeah.
tell him,
Yeah, this is Naga. Yeah.
Naga, yeah, tell him that I know I have to sum up, but that is what I'm missing. I have to see where can I sum up. So then I should really be I should really be clear that once I reach the leaf, then I can sum up because I'm having the value there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like it's a common solution.
Yeah.
These are some things that we could try, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead with the new question.
So I think we're discussing the several skills that you need to succeed, right? The learning paths, getting to know deeply the problems. So my question is around the last bit, like the day of, the moment of the skills for the actual interview, because as we know, I mean, what happens to me is that I solve a problem like with IDE debugging, and I can do it, but the same problem like with somebody, interviewing you, it's like, yeah, like we were discussing, the kind of gets cloudy. So can somebody has suggestions as a good strategy of how to build that skill, like the skill of actually interviewing with a hiring manager? I don't know if somebody has tips or can comment on that.
So your question is specific to the hiring manager, that interview you are talking about?
Yeah, like the interview part itself, not so much like the knowledge of the data structures and everything, how to build skills for the actual, like being a good interviewer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I do know that obviously the more you practice, the more you have interviews, you get better at like stage fright. But
Right.
there's a limit, right? Because I mean, there's so many companies you can do before, before you kind of warn your options. So I don't know if somebody has thoughts or ideas of how to. I know there's some systems that they sell like mock interviews by hiring managers, but I don't know if somebody has tried them. That's kind of overall my question.
Yes, so actually, it's a good question. And for that, mm, first of all, mock interview helps a lot because we are not able to express what we want to express. And especially like mm, maybe it's not a problem for you, but with many folks who are like non-native language speakers, they have even more problems with that. So one thing is you should be like able to talk about what you have done, especially the projects you have worked on. I'm pretty sure you will have a good knowledge about it technically, but when you are talking to someone who is not actually like familiar with that system, suppose if you start to go too much in detail, it won't make sense, right? And you are wasting your minutes also there, because you have to utilize your minutes in the most efficient way. So start with actually a big story, like, okay, what was the impact, like whatever work you did, what was the major impact, and what you will explain to a person who is totally non-technical. Just start with that. And then of course like he will grind you to go into the detail. So then you start to go into the details and slowly start to explain again. It's again modularization on a different level basically. So continuously try to do that, and do it in your mock interviews. We have a mock interview channel here. I'm sure that the people are not doing that level of interview currently. Mostly it's coding interviews, but two of you or someone like or you can just ask for it, hey, I want to do this kind of interview, and someone else can interview like that. It doesn't depend on what the other asks. It helps you what you do. Like, you try to present yourself again and again. When you do that, you try to repeat same thing, and you already said that already, that if I was doing 10 interviews and then I go to the my actual company where I'm interested to, you have a very good chance because you have repeated your thought process so many times, because it just feels natural. You don't have to think about. At that point of it will become a normal conversation, and that is what you want it to be. I mean, even for all other interviews, even for system design and coding, we want to get to that level where it becomes a normal conversation where we don't have to put any extra effort to come up with something like. And then it will be very relaxing and like conversational. You will actually enjoy it. I'm not saying that I'm that good, but I'm just it has happened. Some of my interviews have gone that way too, and some has got pretty bad also. So that is what happens. Try to talk a little. A lot of people, what they do, they talk in front of some glass actually. So that may help. Anyone else wants to? Yeah, someone wants to add to it.
Yeah, one piece I can add about the mock interview things, right? Uh, like I tried one resource which is Pramp. So the way they do it is like they pair up people, and
Yeah.
you get half an hour and the other guy gets half an hour. So a few things I learned, because I'm being an interviewer, also interviewee and interviewer both. So when I'm interviewing somebody, I get to understand like what are the mistakes the other guy is doing in the way he is expressing. So I could correct those things. And also I could also learn from the other guys. Like there are a lot of people, they pair up with random people. So you
Mm-hmm.
learn the strategies of other people, of like how they are doing it and which one is
Right.
working, which one is not working. So
Yes.
that
Yes.
helped a bit actually. So
Yeah.
being on both the sides, right? So you learn the question, you learn the strategies, you learn the mistakes. So that's something we could try. Uh,
Y- uh, yes. I was just adding to that. I was about to talk about Pramp as well. Like Pramp has really good set of interview modes. You have behavioral interview mode. You have front end engineering interview mode. You have back end engineering. You have data structures and algorithms interview mode. They're really good set of 45 to 50 problems that really help you. Uh, that really help you improve yourself. Yes.
Great. That's a good advice.
So I have one question. If no one is having.
So Rishabh, there are a couple of questions on the group chat. So let me first,
okay.
look at it. So
Okay.
somebody is asking, okay, good resource for system design we already discussed, right? Okay. Somebody asked, I'm new to this channel. I know the basic concepts. There are a lot of channels here and discussing all sort of problems. I do not know where to start and how to participate in all the sessions. I need your suggestions here. So we have one specific channel where we have talked about all the sessions we are having. I think it's called
Announcements. It's announcements. Yes.
Announcements, yeah. So go to that channel and look at our sessions, like when we have what. So that's it, I think. And then more questions we have on the chat. System design, we already talked about it, right? So system design for beginner is same as system design for kind of front end who people who don't know back end. I mean, they are having a little bit advantage because they know most of the front end side, but it's still same discussion applies to those guys also, that going through that book, designing data intensive applications, and a lot of sessions we have done, that should give you just a head start. So after that you can build up on that. So that is done. Java versus Python. Wow. Oh my God. Sometimes I think, why didn't I learn Python? And do you guys also feel that? People who are not familiar with Python? Yeah. So.
But I feel, Python, can I say something? I feel Python, it's really easy. It's really easy to learn. And once you have grasp on it, you can really start cracking interviews with Python. But I feel Python will not really test you out during the interviews. It will not really test your understanding of data structures and strong typing and that familiarity with that. I sometimes feel Python will not really help you um, grow in computer science. Sometimes I feel like that because it does not have typing, and it does not make use of strict data structures, and that's what I feel. So that's why I switched from Python to Java, so I feel Java, Java, you have to write a lot of code, but in that lot of code, that really helps you understand a lot, and it really helps you grow as a computer science student, I feel.
Yeah, so actually this person has specifically mentioned that he's familiar with both Java and Python, and he's just asking recommendation for interviews, and comfortable with both. So of course, it depends if you are familiar with both, and everybody agrees that Python, code will be shorter. So of course, you think and you are able to code it very fast. So if you have that, start with Python, in the interview. And if there is some aspect of Python which is not helping you there, you can switch to Java. It's not a problem. But I think you are in a very good spot. You have to choose between two. I have heard a lot of people asking, hey, I want to learn one thing. Should I learn Java well versus C++ well versus Python well? And then it depends on what you want to do. If you would want to become a competitive programmer, then just learn C++. I mean, that is the best language out there due to its speed and other stuff. if you are just interviewing, Python is good enough. If you are doing Java, you are somewhere midway. It can handle like a lot of concurrency things in a much better manner. Though I know that Python also has some concurrency construct there. But also when you go to like, actual job, most likely most of people, they are working like, Python is like, something which will help you build tool or some scripts, but very few like, companies are working where Python is the main like main language. So yeah, I think we have answered it already. Like, there is good and bad with both, but use what is best for you. I guess like Python codes are very short, very clear. Sometimes you have to actually explain to your interviewer, because he may not be that familiar that, hey, like in this 4 line of code, how are you doing all those things? Then you have to do some explaining there, and then he may tell you that, hey, okay, just assume that this library doesn't exist, can you still write it? So yeah, be ready for that. And if you're ready for that, then doesn't matter. I think people have also answered that, okay, that is Python a good language, so it's good. Okay, a lot of resources we have discussed. Okay, so before Rishabh, I take your question, there is one last question on chat, and then we will talk about yours. That is, I mean to ask, like everyone is discussing about LeetCode problems, but as a beginner or scratch level, where to start? I have to start with practice problem, or should I start with contest or challenge? Okay, so this thing, where to start, is a very important problem. Same with other data structure. So, okay, so what used to happen, I have bought so many books in my life, and always I had this problem, where to start. I don't know, maybe a lot of you guys may have this problem at one point of time, that I was very good with like, just buying and not reading. So guys, at one point of time, you have to just decide that, okay, enough, and just start with something. So I tell you that you can start in any way. Any way you start, if you just try to continue doing it, after some time, you will start to learn a lot about that. Like, you will come across something which you don't understand. Okay, same thing, make a note. Okay, what you don't understand, go learn about it, then continue with it. And since you are a very beginner, I would suggest, like, there are some easy problems on LeetCode. So it's a good idea that you just start with that. Slowly you will build your foundation, and then uh, if you feel it's too much, then also filter by a tag ID, that okay, I just want to focus on, for example, linked list. It's a simple data structure, I just want to do like, just learn that thing. So that would be your strategy to get better on, like, all the basic data structure and system, like, like algorithm, like, you should know basic DFS, BFS. Can you do level order traversal? No other challenge there, just do that. Mm, Depth first search, in order, post order, pre-order, just learn that. And if you are able to do that, then start to go into that, like, more resources, or more like maybe contest problem is also good. Maybe you will start with like easy problem, and then you will not be able to solve maybe medium, but then you can go to all these contests and just do that easy problem. But if you are doing a contest without a timer, then it is not that important and helpful. Just go to LeetCode, select a tag, easy problem, start with something which was asked a lot, and build on that. I think that should be a way. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So otherwise, the thing is, guys, you keep on finding the always the what is the best resource and best strategy. That never happens. There is no best resource or best strategy. It always is that you just start and continue with it. So anyone else has any other opinion, feel free to talk about it, or we can go to the next questions. Or person who asks, he can ask again, the same question if I have to clarify. I think it's Olu or something. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so Rishabh has replied also to someone, I think. Yeah, kind of same thing we talked about. Yeah, it's a similar kind of thing we are talking. So I think we are okay. Go ahead, Rishabh, I guess. You were asking some next question, I guess. Yeah.
So like I feel I know some certain concepts, like I can design. I know how to, like, I can design APIs, like if there's a requirement, let's say you have to get all the list of contacts, or you have to get list of all the records, then I know how to design an API. Because if you're working with Node.js, then you can simply have a get request that will pull the record as JSON from database, and it will give it back to the client. But my question resolves around the point that how do you start talking about object oriented design? Let's say the interviewer says design, like give me a low level design of a reservation system, or give me a low level design of an elevator, or any sort of, or a parking lot.
Yeah.
But I know what are the components that should sit there, but how do you start talking about, like uh, classes and other things? Because I know, like the one architecture that I'm really familiar with is a model view controller, but uh, I know there needs to be a model view and then controller. But how do you start talking about the various components? Because interviewer at that point, I feel he's expecting a lot about classes, interfaces, and he's expecting a lot about objects and other things. But yeah, so how do you tackle object oriented design questions?
Okay. So does anybody wants to answer that, or I can answer?
If like the you've been working, related to your previous project, you've been working with a model view controller, I think that's a good place to start. You can build that object from there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And in general, object oriented design, so like a lot of people have this kind of question. Like sometimes they don't know when a question is asked, are you talking about a system design or object oriented design? I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
had this question, because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
talk both
That
ways,
really pops up. Yes.
right? So it is better to clarify that with the interviewer. So like so you can just say, hey, should we talk about the overall system, or you want me to focus on the low level aspect of it? So most likely the interviewer will tell, okay, let's start with the big picture, and then we will go and drill down onto a certain aspect of it. Maybe suppose if you were a UI guy, or maybe not just UI, or you don't have enough experience with the backend system, and if
Yeah. My resume says a lot about UI, a lot of front end stuff, like a lot of JavaScript and a lot of AngularJS and Node.js, all that thing. But I also know how to write APIs on the back end as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what I think, Rishabh, what will happen that he will most likely come to from once he recognizes that like it's not a, you are not a having a background, not background, backend uh, kind of guy, and maybe your position was anyway not for that particular role you have applied, then where will he take you? He will take you to the low level design, like object oriented design. And then it's a general idea. When you are building an object oriented design, there are two things, right? Like it's like, think about the real world aspect of it. There
Okay.
are certain objects and they do something, they make some action, right? So object and activity, and that is what you have to think about, when you are designing that. Wherever you think about something object, then you define a class there. Activity is like what it performs, how it performs that activity. It is just a very basic thing I'm talking about. But with that in mind, then you have to learn a little bit about, depending on your language, different kind of design patterns which are already being proven. Because in 45 minutes of interview, you want to show, if you are going for a senior role, uh, the you have to differentiate basically. You can't go into the same details as someone with a lot of experience, or with less experience, like just fresh out of from college will go. So you will be talking in terms of maybe some design pattern. So it's implicit just by talking about one line or two lines of some design pattern and why you choose it. You have already covered 15 minutes of discussion, like which you would have otherwise gone through it. Like, hey, these are the objects I'm thinking, and since this thing can change it at runtime, maybe I will use this particular pattern so we can switch back and forth, something like that. Same thing I would like to apply on system design also. Exactly, think about if every guy follows the same pattern for system design interview, and we have just 45 minutes of interview, what would be the difference between actually a senior guy or someone mid-level or someone very junior? Actually, it's not the straight way. If you are senior, and I'm pretty sure the interviewer will be I'm expecting him to be a very good level. So your conversation should be on a very higher level. He actually knows, he doesn't need to drill through it. You are talking about all these fault tolerant thing. How would you uh, you have nodes in different data centers, how they will synchronize. If you are going at that level as soon as possible, I'm not saying that just don't talk about anything else, but don't waste too much time also on things which is cutting your 45 minutes from that. So reach to that level as soon as possible. Because if somebody is talking at that level, as an interviewer, I already knows he has his bases covered. I won't go and ask him a very simple question okay, can you explain how it works? Can you just explain proof of cap theorem? No, I would not ask that. I would rather ask something more actually useful. So you want to go to that level as soon as possible. Don't go into the details, too much details unless it's asked for. So that is where your design pattern thing will help you.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a really good tactic. Once you have that same communication level of the same of what the interviewer is expecting, then you can really let him know that you know about it. But most of the times it happens that you don't know what that level is. You don't know what that pattern is, or you don't know what is this particular component trying to tackle in the design,
Right.
in the overall system design.
Yeah.
So you cannot really aim for that level. Like how can you how can you assess yourself in that case?
Yeah, so that's
What
why
can I do in that case?
you have to, that's why like you have to actually build some, like, not build, like at least read through it. Like
Mm.
when you will do, like, Gang of Four design pattern book,
Yeah.
or read some other books where they have this, like, they are building some system and how they are using different kind of patterns over there, right? I'm not saying just throw out patterns, like, that is also not a good practice. But
yeah, I understand. You're telling, throw out the reason why you're using this pattern.
Yes, why you will use, and then that will see just by saying something like adapter. It and if you can explain it, it helps you, like, you have already explained everything. If the interviewer is familiar with it, he knows that you can talk day to day about that thing without going into the, like, too much detail. He knows that you know this stuff. So now you can focus on some, like, different aspect of the problem.
Okay.
So yeah, you have to spend some time actually learning all these patterns. I don't know, in JavaScript you have a different kind of thing, but yeah, that will
So
help.
there's a, yeah, okay, I understand that. Okay.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? Any other strategy?
My question is like, let's say I'm in an interview and I'm already done with the coding, but unfortunately it run out of time, and I don't have time to do the try run and to verify verify the whole algorithm. Then what would I need to do?
Okay, so your question was like, is it like online kind of coding challenge you are talking, or you are in
in the real interview?
Okay, and you are basically running out of time to finish things. Is that
no?
right?
But I know I'm done with the algorithm because let's say I walk through, not walk through, but I write a code, complete code, but I don't have time to do the try run.
Okay, so thing is like, I have seen some of the sessions, and like, people have their own ways to do it. But think about this strategy. Like, before you write code, I think you would explain it to the interviewer anyway, right? Hey, like, okay, this is the problem. This is how you will, like, maybe it will take you 5 minutes to come to the solution. You will struggle with it. So you will draw. After you draw, you will tell, hey, I have found the way and this is what we are going to do, right? And while explaining, like, interviewer might have already given you a test, like, some test to run, right? Some input, some output. It always happens like that.
Yeah, sometimes I have to, just my own my own sample. So sometimes at the end, the interviewer will give the okay, now give this input and run it and see what the problem is.
Right. So with that given input, at least for that particular case, before you start writing your code, you will be able to run through your solution, the idea of your solution before writing your code. Just remember that, right? Otherwise, how can you write something which the interviewer doesn't even know what you are going to do? Or at least explain him, hey, I will do this kind of couple of 3 steps I will do, and then this will get transformed to this, and this is how I will figure out things. So explain to him what you are going to do before you start writing code. Now you, like, you can even write these 3 steps on a certain side of the, like, we are doing it remotely. So just write a pseudocode somewhere, basically. Like just don't to, don't put too much effort, just write steps and then start writing your code. Like, all these steps, try to cover it. Now, suppose even if you are not able to, like, run through other exceptional cases, what I do normally, in the beginning, I just write, okay, we'll come to this portion to handle some edge cases, maybe negative, null, that kind of thing. If you think like all those edge cases are too many edge cases, if it is straightforward, then just handle it there. Or otherwise, write a like, pseudo, like, like something to do, handle, exceptional cases and move on. Because if you go through this, at each point of time, your interviewer is seeing that you have covered your bases, and he will know that, okay, if there was enough time, he exactly knows that you would have done it. If you don't explain it and you are just like, starting with code and you are thinking, okay, let me write a perfect code and in the end I will explain everything, then when the time ends, the interviewer still has some doubt left.
Yeah,
So
in my case, I draw, visualize it, draw it, and you know, walk through. I mean, explain the pseudocode to the interviewer. But I have feeling that like he let me do it, but he had some like corner case test sample.
yeah,
He want me to run at the end, right? But we run out of time.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So hopefully, like, with enough practice, you would get, like, you have to get some time anyway. That is the problem here, right? If you had maybe 2-3 minutes extra time, you could have done that. So you have to figure out a way to squeeze in somehow. How can you do that? So you have to get better for sure. But just from the strategy point of view, I always suggest, always have your base covered, like, always. In this case, I would do that the interviewer knows that if I had enough time, he's like 90% sure that mm, you would have done this thing. Same with, like, think about system design interviews, 45 minutes. Like, one strategy is also like how you can do that base covered. Talk about, like, requirement gathering as soon as possible. Non-functional requirements, you cover that. You just agree to something with the interviewer, and you also agree that, okay, we can change this thing, but as we will make change, we will actually change our systems accordingly, right? And that is happens in real system. You refactor your code and you can re-architect your system. So you start with something very basic. It covers the functionality. You have identified APIs. It is working. Now, okay, your system is growing. Okay, let's talk about how to actually grow. Start, like, working on, maybe, okay, what should we start with? Maybe database. So if you start with that, at every point of time, you have a working solution already. Like, people who refactor, they you will see, like, they just make some code changes, they run their test suite and everything, like, just works. They are so confident that they can incrementally make the changes. Of course, you can't do that with architecture in real system. Like, once one architecture has done, uh, you know making changes there is not like, it's very costly. But during interview, you can agree with your interviewer, hey, this is how we are going to approach this. We'll build it, and then I will start adding non-functional aspect of it slowly. Like, okay, start with something, add caches, talk about CDN, talk about fault tolerance, and all those strategies we have been discussing. But what will happen at 45 minutes, you will have covered a lot of ground. Otherwise, what will happen? It's basically uh, DFS versus BFS. Think about it. Cover the breadth, and then go to the next level. That is one strategy. Other strategy is, okay, continue going into the depth. Unfortunately, you don't know where this depth will end if you just go through just one, node continuously. And uh, your interviewer maybe, like, if he's just looking for one aspect of the interview, he may get the data, otherwise he would not be able to get the data. And here you have to lead. You are the leader because you are interviewing. So try to have that control. Wherever you have some doubts, just agree with the interviewer as soon as possible, that hey, since we have this much time, do you want me to focus on this, or should we talk about this also? Because everybody knows that 45 minutes is not a right amount of time for designing any system. So anyway, I'm always going there, but I'm just trying to explain some aspect of, in general, same strategy will apply in coding interview and everything else. Leon, does that give you the idea, basic idea?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just talk about what you are going to do next. That's it. Anyone else wants to offer some strategy? If no question, then offer what has worked for you, so that we can also learn from that. Open to that. Okay.
I think you have covered most of the.
Yeah, we have a lot of guys who normally talk a lot. What about Santosh? Santosh, why you are so so uh, silent today? Naga is also there. Another Naga, Naga Erekoni. Naga should offer some advice.
Does anyone know a link practice site to get practice on back to envelope calculation?
So back to envelope point calculation is something very easy if you do it once properly. I will give you my strategy. So couple of things, not just for back of envelope calculation. I remember a couple of things. So you guys remember 2 to the power 10 is 10 to the power 3, kind of. If not, then at least remember that 2 to the power 10 is 1024 and 10 to the power 3 is 1000, right? So lots of algorithmic problems when you do, I use that, okay, if it's a 32-bit, what does that mean? I know, okay, 2 to the power 10 is this, then I will just convert mentally. Exact same things you can apply while doing your calculation with back of the envelope calculation, which people do. So again, two strategies there. One, that okay, you can just make up, hey, 500 million users per month, and then you start dividing it up. That is fine. And then what you will calculate eventually? You will eventually calculate these many requests per second. Why not agree with the interviewer, hey, can I assume these many requests per second? Rather than going through all those calculations one by one, just have some number, you will find some numbers on some of the blogs, how many Twitter or Facebook they handle. Just have that number. Then go with read write ratios. When you have ratios, it is easy to calculate, based on that. Okay, 80% is read, 20% is write. So if you have, suppose, read calculation already done, write is nothing, divided by 4, you got it. So basically, you should be done with all these calculations in a couple of minutes, agree to some value, like in 2-3 minutes, something like that. And why you can do that? okay, I know maybe for first problem it will take you time while you are doing for Twitter, but do for 3 or 4 at the same time. You will find a some very common idea. What is the rough estimate? If that doesn't happen, then you can even agree. Okay, let's start with something, and what actually interviewer wants to bring you to, just from interview perspective. It's not for the actual in your actual job you won't do that. You will actually go with the numbers, but interviewer brings you to a point where your system will start to break, right? If you don't take care about certain aspect of it. Maybe he will just prove that, okay, if the load is more, you have to, one node can't handle your load. So you have to start thinking about the strategies to mitigate it. So you can just say, okay, um, we will talk about it when when you actually try to expand on your design system already. Got it? So actually I got a message. Sorry, I was just a bit distracted. Santosh's mic is not working. Okay, got it. But yes, then that is how you can go ahead. Both the approaches will work. You work with your 2 to the power 10 equal to 10 to the power 3 trick, or just agree to something and move on. Because what interviewer is not actually interested to know whether can you do a calculation or not, or you can just mention it, because maybe he's thinking, do you think about this or not? But what you can say, hey, can we just assume, like I know from the resources I have studied that Twitter normally has these many requests per second. Either I can derive, or we can just agree to this value and we can just move on. Or can we move that our system, can we just agree that our system is handling this much load, this much network throughput, something, and get that number when you have time now, before going to interview. Have a certain idea that, okay, everybody wants to test you on a big system, not any average system or something. So always go towards the bigger number, have that in mind, and say, okay, let's start with this, and then we will discuss. So what you did, you have saved a lot of time there. uh, as an interviewer, I am pretty sure some of you are interviewer here. uh, do you guys think that you would not agree to it? Because as an interviewer, I want to focus on, personally I will also like to see candidates working on something which is more interesting to me, right? So when I will see someone struggling on that number, I may offer, hey, forget about that, just assume the load is heavy, this system is very load heavy. In both cases you have to handle that. But a lot of interviewers would not help you with that. They will see, okay, let's see, and since you are the leader here, it's your interview, you should try to uh, save time, don't rush, but yeah, do agree with your interviewer.
So at the end, like when we have the number of read per second or the number of write per second, let's say, each write equal, how many bytes per write. But that number, would that number we use to calculate like how many app server we need initially, or, going to use for different, some other purpose?
So see, you are talking about going into the details of the numbers, but can you tell me, is there anything which you cannot do it now, right? Before going to interview, you can come up with some numbers, right? You also know how to come to the number, right? That is given, that you know your numbers, how you can derive that numbers. But most likely like your interviewer is not interested to too much into going into that detail. So what you are doing with by like by that you are saving your time to talk about actually building the system, not just talking about numbers. Of course, like number calculation is a very important thing when you do like in your day-to-day job. Like every quarter people have estimate, like planning estimates, that okay, how many VMs we need given the current growth of your system for next 4 quarters maybe. So we do that calculations every day. But yeah, that is just doing that calculation takes time, and I'm saying that try to save you from that as much as possible. Or if you have to still do that, use that trick. Use that trick of 2 to the power 10 equal to 10 to the power 3, and you will see like after doing it for a couple of systems, you will be able to do it very fast. Like you are just playing with the power, like because when everything is on like on 10 to the power something, you will actually reach the calculated number very fast.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. It's all about, see, we are talking about tricks. Tricks helps you save time to provide you time for better things, more important things. Like, and what I do, I try to think from interviewer point of uh, like what is his perspective. If you think from his perspective, then a lot of things will get very clear. Like if I have to interview a candidate for 45 minutes, I would prefer him to spend a lot of time on something which we are actually looking for. If I am really interested to see whether he thinks about it or not, I will definitely nudge him. Okay, hey, on what basis you think this is a right number for our system? Then we can go into that detail. But we are just deferring it, just defer the conversation. Okay, I think Naga has sent some link for back of the calculation. So look at it. Yeah, he has a very nice, yeah. I think I have seen this page earlier. Okay. Oh, numbers everyone should know. Okay, yeah. That I know. And then, okay, some calculation method. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but I look at that number too. I don't see really it help in would it really help in that system design, because it like very at a very detailed low level, right?
Yeah, this is very low level. When you talk about something like disk seek and L1 L2 cache reference, it will be like useful at that point of time. But what you talked about, that is what I explained actually. So I think if you have access to grokking the system design interview, they have some calculation, right? Take any 3 systems in one day, just the capacity estimation part. Okay, just do that, and you try to figure out where you were stuck. I would just suggest always use the trick I suggested, like 2 to the power 10 equal to 10 to the power 3, and then you try to do the calculation. You should know, like in 30 days how many seconds are there. Like like a lot of people, they just remember 86,400 something like that. So you just try to round it up. Like these are like common things. You are just thinking it's taking time because you haven't invested more time, but just make it your project for one day. I want to get better at capacity planning. You will have all your numbers covered very fast, believe me. And if it doesn't work, then ping me. I will try to I will try to give you a detailed session, but I don't want to give just on this thing. anyone else mm, has any questions? Actually, we want to discuss also about the future topics, maybe after the session, because we were supposed to do another session today, but we couldn't do it. So I would open the floor for the ideas. What do you want to get covered next? So
One question is, so let's say it's a system design interview, and you have started talking about the system, and the interviewer is so far agreeing with you, and all of a sudden, like you said, you have to communicate in the way that the interviewer understands, like
right.
telling about the patterns and telling about the components and the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
But then you start to ask yourself questions. What if this happens, and what if that happens?
Yeah.
And then you come to realize that I don't know what to do. What if this happens? How do
Yeah.
you tell your interview? Like, you directly say, I know we have to scale for reads, and we can do so and so, but I don't know if we can have hot shards.
Yeah.
What to do?
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so basically you have taken a, like, a step, and then now you have figured out, hey, um, it is not giving you what you thought, or maybe you found another problem with that, right?
Yeah.
So that is anyway, if you are talking about a system design, uh, when you choose anything, no system is perfect. It will have some problems, right?
Mm,
Maybe when you talked about it, you also didn't realize that, hey, actually it is going to give a problem, which was the main part of the system, so we can't actually agree with this actually decision, right?
mm,
So ideally you have to go back and undo your whatever choices you did. So you should
mm,
know, like, when you make a choice, what is the pro versus what is the cons, what is the problem you can get into, right?
mm,
Now suppose maybe you still couldn't figure things out, and now interviewer raised something which you don't even know,
mm,
because we are talking about tactics, right?
mm, mm,
And we are not saying that, okay, um, it's not like, we are trying to deceive or anything. We are just saying,
mm,
hey, actually, this is a very good point. I don't know what to do,
mm,
but
mm,
based on what I have studied, or I have little bit I have experience with,
mm,
I
mm,
think we can do something like this. But then that would require us to make other changes, which we have already agreed to, right?
mm, mm.
So
Okay.
so you have covered both the things, right? If you have some surface level knowledge, you have
Mm,
demonstrated that, right? That,
mm, mm,
okay, I know, so given enough time, I think I know where to go.
mm,
And you are not disagreeing to the interviewer, because if he has
mm,
raised a very good point, you should just agree to him, of course, or you
mm,
have raised your point.
mm,
Interviewer should be happy that, hey, actually
mm,
he realized that he made a mistake, but he is ready to go and make a change there. So most likely he
mm,
would at that time tell you that, okay, that's good, but yeah, don't worry about it. Let's talk about something else, because he wants to get as much data as possible in 45
mm.
minutes. Like, you
So
are
you mean
trying
to,
to give as much.
okay. So in that case, sometimes, like, I have not designed, I have not like in my previous job also, I have not designed large scale systems, but I know I should not be telling that to the interviewer. But I've studied few components, I've studied few structure of other, like, I've been learning through materials and other resources. Um, you have made a decision while choosing a component, or while going through forward in the design process,
Mhm.
and then you get stuck, and you don't know how to mitigate that problem. Like you said, hey, I know we have done so and so and so, but this will have this so and so problem, and to solve this problem, I don't know what to do. What do you do in that case? Like, do you directly say, I don't know what to do now, or do you say, we have to find out a way of doing this and this and this?
Yeah, so be reasonable, right?
Okay.
Be reasonable means like you try your best, right, in your interview. So if you don't know anything, like suppose it was specific to something you have no idea, suppose batch processing, for example, suppose you have no idea. So if you at least know anything about batch processing, you can say, yeah, I know there are some systems which cover this kind of things, but unfortunately, I don't have enough experience with it. So um, I am not very familiar, but I can guess that this is what might be going in, like in the background, like so that's why it's always a good idea, like that book is very good, and it's always a good idea that you know a little bit about most of the things. So don't, like you don't want to be so unfamiliar with something which is very common. But yeah, if somebody has worked with Apache Flink, for example, and asking some question specific to that, then you will just say, hey, sorry, I have no idea, I haven't worked with it, and that is only fair.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we discussed a lot of things. I didn't capture all this while I was explaining on here, but just go to the videos, look at it. We talked a lot of things, and this is a very good session in terms of, like direction. You suppose, like you are moving, you are making a progress in some directions, and that direction is always changing, right? You don't know where you are actually reaching with that. But this session is trying to provide you a direction. Make the best use of what you have today. Suppose if you are going tomorrow for an interview, just like try to use what you have in the best manner. And that is why like all these tennis players, they have just session for backhands, forehands, and all those, like serve. It is exactly like you are doing all these preparation. But then when they go for the, like playing against certain opponent, they work on the strategy before each, like matches. They work on the strategy, because that is very important, and that is what we are trying to do here. It's not like replacement for what what you have to do, but it is giving you, okay, how to give your best in a different situation. Maybe something is not working, like some guys backhand is not working, then how do they handle that situation? So in that case, exact same thing reflects to, okay, I don't have much experience with this thing, how can I make the best use of my time and give my best there? Exactly like that. This is what we are trying to cover here, and in a fair way, like not to deceive or anything. Just try to present your best. So
yeah, that's a nice analogy, Roger. I like that.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's how we have to be, like and then continue working on your backhand, forehand, guys, like go to the session. Like don't get overwhelmed, just like just think that, okay, it will help you someday. Even if you feel like I am not learning, you get that feeling the more you try. Actually, when people learn something in the beginning, they feel so that they know a lot. Then when they start to do more studies, they start to feel that there's so much I don't know. I'm pretty sure it must have happened to most of you. uh, and that happens, but actually you know more than what you were knowing when you just learn something as a, like in the beginning. So always open to learn more from different sources. Try to get better in your ideas, like how to represent things. Even if you learn, if you don't, you are not able to convey, then it's not good, and you also actually don't know that well, both ways actually. So we'll just make best use of your resource and time. Get better. Don't compete with anyone. Yeah, don't compete with anyone, but yeah, just compete with yourself. I mean, that is the whole point.
Yep.
All right. There is another question from Santosh. Great information and good guidance to handle it. Okay, thanks, Santosh. Yeah, Santosh, mic is not working, so he is typing out. I missed his voice today. Santosh, I rarely do sessions. Anyway, so we'll stop the sharing, and let's talk a little bit, if some guys are interested, what sessions should we do next, if you guys have anything in your mind. Like, so.
Should I stop recording?
Yeah, I think we should stop, right, guys? We are good, right?
Yep, I think so.